Hi everyone, thought that I'd just take you through the latest video I did. As you know, I all shoot Fusion, and I thought I'd show you how I actually put that whole video together. You can check the previous video or the finished video if you like, and I'll put that down below. You may want to actually check that now before I take you through this. But I thought I'd sort of show you how I built it and how I put it all together. So I've used Final Cut Express. And I love that program. I find it works just so great with the footage. I used to use Premiere Pro, but I've now gone to Final Cut because I often do use 4K. And if I'm shooting 4K, Final Cut seems to handle it much better. So let's have a look what I actually start with. Now, I generally start with music, and I'm just going to switch over, so bear with me while I look at the other monitor. I've had to use two screens here. I use Epidemic Sound. The great thing with Epidemic Sound is you can choose the song that you like, and I'll just play this song. So this is the one I actually chose. Give me your strength. And the great part about this is you can actually download the full thing. Now, if I come down to the bottom, I'll just see if I can scroll this. Now, the beauty of this program is that basically what you're looking at here, you can download the stems. Now, what that means is you can download the actual music without the singing, or if you want to, you can just download the bass or the drums or the melody, something like that if you want to. You can also download the whole thing. Now, I like to download everything because, and I'll show you in a minute, the song wasn't quite long enough, and because I was having speeches at the beginning of the song, I like to just use the stems, which is the music without the actual voice in it, and I'll just sort of chop and paste and copy the music and sort of make it fit to what I'm actually after, because obviously if I've got the bride or the groom talking, I don't want to then have the singing in the background. So that's what I did. So I do download all the stems, and that's how I basically did that. Let me just quick over to here, because I'm going to go to Final Cut. So let's cut to the organization here. You can see up, if you look through this section through here, what I've done is I've actually got their name. I've got Elizabeth and Michael, but then I've split everything up when they're brought in. I've got audio, so all my audio actually sitting through this side. Through here, you can see that I've got the name of the song here, and these are the stems, bass, there is melody and things like that. So they're all actually through there. Then I've got a folder that's got B-cam footage. So anything that's got B-cam footage I've stuck inside here. Then I've got the bride getting ready. So all the footage of the bride getting ready is stuck through here as well. And then I've got drone footage brought in. We've got formal. So it's anything during the formal part of the day, which was down the beach when they were walking, things like that. I've then got the groom getting ready. There's also reception, so anything to do with the reception is put through here as well. And then the wedding ceremony itself is all through here as well. So they're all sort of separate that way. That way I know when I want to grab something exactly where it is. Because I'm using multiple cameras and things like that and different audio things, I stick them all in these folders when I bring them over and just organize it, and it's a much easier thing to work that way. This is basically the whole thing. If you're looking at the Final Cut timeline all through here, this is the actual completed video that I've actually put together. In the green down the bottom is all the audio. So this is all your audio down through here. And these little bits here are just audio that I've actually taken out and put down below because I wanted some audio to actually play in the background. Now you can see what I've done here. The reason why I've split this up is because this just says instruments over here. And that's because what I've got there is just the audio without having any video on it, or without any sound at all. So that's why I've basically done that. I really like the way I can add that all together. So I've basically tried to time it in the points where you can't tell if the song changes. Like for instance, if we go here, I'll just play this for you for a minute and you'll hear it.
Feel loved. I can promise that I'll willingly be your protector, your advisor, your counsellor, your friend, your family, your everything.
So I didn't want the audio, the singing to be there, but she's finished. So she finished them talking, and that's why I ended up putting in the track, which is actually down here that you can see is the singing version of it. So that's why I've cut it like that. Basically, I've just put it over the top of the just the instrument sounds, songs, the singer singing over the people talking. So I like to do that. Now, at the beginning of this, I always like to either interview the bride or interview the groom. In this case, I interviewed the groom. Now, they're always nervous, but I do tell them that they're only going to be on for a second or so. And then basically they'll just go to clips. So at the moment here, Michael's going to talk about Elizabeth. I just asked him a few questions, and then I'll start to cut to clips that you can see where he's showing. I do a sort of an establishing video to start with, and then basically after that, it'll go into more showing Elizabeth, because that's what he's talking about. So I'll play that and you can understand what I'm saying.
So we met through friends, and we've been dating.
So I've cut there over to show Peppers, which is the resort. Now I'm just doing a bit of intro footage. So it's just B-roll that I've captured on the day.
And he said yes, and we did that up in Port Douglas. And yeah.
Now there you go. I wanted audio there.
Ever since.
Michael, my husband.
So then I've switched over to Elizabeth. So now the interesting thing was here, normally I would never put a lapel mic on the bride like I have there, but the issue was the person I believe that was doing the MC, I don't think he'd ever done it before. It must have been a family friend, so he did a great job because he'd never had any experience. But the problem was he didn't follow the timeline, and we had about a 30 seconds notice that they were going to do the speeches. So I had to basically run up, set up a camera, and then I couldn't patch into the microphone because there wasn't any ability to patch in that location. So I was going to try and hide the microphones, but like I said, I had 30 seconds to do this. So what I did is I just pinned the lapel on. Like I said, I normally wouldn't do that. But then, like I said, I've cut to Elizabeth here, and then she's going to talk, and then I'll actually show some footage of Michael getting ready as this is happening. I don't also like to stick too long showing the bride or groom talking like that, or anyone talking, because it can end up being fairly boring. So what I'll do here, I'll switch in a second. She'll still be talking in the background, but then I'll put the clips over that of Michael getting ready.
I can promise you my everlasting devotion, my loyalty, my respect, and my unconditional love for a lifetime.
So sometimes what I'll do here is I'll take multiple shots, like where you saw back here, where they're having their beer can. You'll see that they push their beers together. I do one shot, and then I'll ask them to do it again.
Devotion, my loyalty, my respect.
So that gives me that double crop there that you can see. So, I mean, I could shoot it with 4K and crop in, but I basically just did two shots.
Lasting devotion, my loyalty, my respect, and my unconditional.
So you can see there what I've done. And then obviously I'm only going to show, because I'm only giving a highlight type reel here or footage, I'm only going to show this for a few seconds. So
I can promise that I'll always be here for you.
Now, once they're dressed, we'll take the boys out and we'll get them walking and talking and things like that. I love to basically have them looking as natural as possible, which, you know, is their hands are in their pockets, they're just looking at each other, having a bit of a chat.
To listen and to hold your hand. And I'll always do my best to make you happy.
I always try and include the mother or the father here, and I love doing that, say the flowers being put onto Michael's lapel there.
Happy and make you feel loved.
Again, these are just details. I try and actually capture all details during the day. This was all done with the Moza Air2. I used that all day and loved it. So I just try and add a little bit of movement to make it look interesting.
I can promise that I'll willingly be your protector, your advisor, your counsellor, your friend.
Now, the interesting thing there is that I used the Tamron 28-75 lens here. And you can see how close this focuses in as I move in, and the focus is just amazing on these lenses, on that lens particular. It's such a good video lens. I can zoom in, zoom out, I can get really close to almost macro, as you'll see as it actually comes in. It'll then cut to Elizabeth because I wanted to actually show Elizabeth again at the end. There's a bit of emotion there. Let me just drag that back and I'll show you.
Protector, your advisor, your counsellor, your friend, your family, your everything. This I promise you. I love you, Michael Robertson.
Now I like to work non-linear. You can see that because I've added Michael at the beginning and showed sort of Elizabeth getting ready. Then I've cut to the actual reception. So I love working non-linear like that. And basically what I've done here is I've actually said I'm then going to cut to Elizabeth getting ready. Now she's already ready here, but then I'll go back to where she's actually doing stuff like getting dressed and popping the champagne bottle. I love working non-linear because I think it's far more interesting than just having it just flow from the start to the end of the day. And you'll see here how it changes.
Michael Robinson.
So this is where it jumps back to before they're even ready, and I'll show some getting ready images here.
We're in this together now. We're in this together.
Now that is just basically, I had Ben and Gino on both sides, and all they did was grab the veil and then just let it go, and I just shot that on the gimbal actually. And it looks beautiful. I really love how it is now. It's just slowed down. It was all shot in 1080p 50. If you're in the US, it should be 1080 60. And I've slowed it down 50% in post. So I'll show that again.
We're in this together now. Give me.
Now this has just moved to the girls getting ready, and like I said, I'm only going to show a few seconds of all this, otherwise it gets boring, and then I'll cut to them doing a bit of the back of the dress.
Your love and tell me your secrets.
Then I'll move to this section, which is usually just showing a little bit about putting jewelry in, things like that. Sometimes it's about the bracelets, sometimes it will be obviously the earrings, sometimes it can be a necklace.
We're in this together now. Yeah, we're.
Now I love this shot particularly. This is one of my favourite shots. You can see the chair on the left hand side, which is what I'm using to stand up in a minute for the next shot where she's looking up. But I just adore this shot. It's always nice to have the veil over her like it is. The flowers have to be down nice and low, and this will switch from this wider angle, then up. I'll pop up on the chair and you'll see that other angle.
We're in this together now.
So I love that view from there. And then I've obviously switched to where she's sort of walking out before she goes to the ceremony. It'll then switch to the actual ceremony where they're doing their arriving.
I'd like to welcome you.
Now because that I wanted the priest to actually talk here, again I've cut back down here to show just the audio again. So it's just instruments again, and then it'll cut back over here to once the priest stops to the singing part again. And you'll sort of see that as we go actually through.
I'd like to welcome you all here for this wonderful occasion.
So what I've done here is I've mic'd the priest up. I also mic'd the groom, but I didn't use any groom footage from this with his audio. I just mic'd up the priest, and I can let that run right through in multiple clips. Audio is the secret here. You really have to try and learn audio if you're going to try and get a nice result on these videos.
To witness the loving union.
Now you can see there what I've done is I've followed basically Elizabeth down the aisle with the Moza Air2. I've got the Sony A9 with the 28-75 on here, and I'm just tracking center, and it's following her beautiful.
This wonderful occasion to witness the loving union of Elizabeth and.
Again, I'm using the Moza Air2 here just to walk down the aisle, and I think then I'll walk behind them just to show it from the back, because it was a bit unusual, this church, because there was seats on both sides. That's why you can see seats behind them.
Michael in holy matrimony.
So I'm just trying to show a bit of interest here.
God's name, I now
And again, I've moved to the other side of the table here, just showing them lighting the candles.
pronounce you husband and wife.
Now that's where I'll now switch to the audio again singing, because I just want to show them having their first kiss, and then basically it'll be singing from that point on.
I'll keep you safe. I'll give you my.
Now I just wanted to sort of move in here with the gimbal and concentrate on their name on those candles. I didn't mind that they were out of focus in the background. I quite liked that, and I just wanted to sort of make this look a little bit different.
Everything.
Again, I've moved, this is after the ceremony and they're walking away or coming out of the church. So I've just following them again with the A9 and the 28-75. It'll then move to a group shot. Now it was so tight in there that I had to use the 10-18 on 12mm. So I did use the 10-18 f4. Now that was just handheld. I just quickly held it up and got them to do it twice. One for the photos and one just to get that cheering.
Even if we're falling down.
Now then I sat in the combi behind them. There was two combis here. I just wanted to get a bit of footage of the combi actually driving. I thought it just added a bit of interest.
Even if we're falling down.
Now this again is just B-roll that I captured. I always like to have plenty of B-roll so I can just cut to it and add a bit of interest into the movie. It'll then move to where we're on the beach with the bridal party.
All of me is yours, every part of me.
Now I'm using the ND here. I've got a variable ND on the actual camera on the 28-75, and that's how I'm balancing my exposure. So I'm just making sure, or trying to make sure, that I don't blow out the highlights, because that's the most important thing that I'm trying to aim for here. Again, this is all 1080p 50 slowed down to half.
'Cause we're in this together now.
Now I like to sort of get down low with the gimbal and then just sort of follow the bride just walking and have that in slow motion as well.
You and me together now.
Again, I always look for audio down the bottom. You'll notice down here I've got a red marker on that audio point down here. That's because that's a point of interest that I want to make sure it cuts to, and that's going to be where I use Gino's drone footage. Gino was kind enough to do some drone footage on the day, and that's where it'll cut to his drone footage.
What's the point of living if we're scared to lose each other? What's the point of living without you? Tell me now.
So then I'll cut back to the bride and groom just walking again. It's lovely.
And I'll stop fighting. Tell me now, and I'll stop breathing.
It's also nice to switch focal lengths, so you know, zooming in or zooming out to get a different look. This was a fun thing where I asked that was his brother and sister, and I asked them to kiss him on the cheeks. Again, we're cutting to B footage here just to add a bit of interest. So I had the gimbal in inverted mode here just to catch the waves. So this was all taken there, and I really like that native foliage from the beach. They adore that location, so it's just nice to grab things that are actually from that area. Yeah, and I just think it adds a little bit of interest rather than looking at just them all the time. It gives you something else to look at. It's then going to switch to the drone again. Here I just asked the bride and groom to kiss, and then they've got to make a little bit of noise like they're really having a bit of fun. You'll see them cheering. Again, I just wanted to concentrate on Elizabeth here, just to have her walking across the beach. Now this is a bit of fun with the boys, where I always like to do this, where they do a bit of jump and they have to give me the blue steel look. There was two versions of this. I also got them to do a model pose that you'll see in a minute. The boys often jump and turn. The girls actually wanted to do the same thing, so they did it too. Often I'll just get the girls spinning and their dresses fly all over the place.
Even when the sun don't shine.
So this is the sort of model walk. You'll see he does that stop at the end, which I've asked him to do.
Even when the sun don't shine.
Now I did the same thing with the girls. I asked them to give me some real attitude walking down the runway.
Give me your strength, show me your weakness.
Now this was just an idea where I wanted to incorporate the two vans, the two combis. So I'm having them kiss and then just walk towards me, and I just move with the gimbal. And then basically then they do it again, and it sort of cuts in to a tighter footage.
'Cause we're in this together now. You and me together now.
Again, then I'll do the whole bridal party. Now this was another location just before we went to the reception, so I asked them just to walk along this sort of broad walk here, or boardwalk. And I love, like I said, it's always about being natural for me. I just like them being natural. What you've got to remember is I'm also shooting photography at the same time, so I've got 2 cameras. So I'm holding a gimbal and I'm shooting the stills at the same time as this. You're not seeing the stills side of this though yet, you're only seeing the video side. Again, I just love this. I saw the dress really blowing in the wind and I asked, she was actually leaving, and then I pulled her back and said, basically, Elizabeth, please walk again because this looks gorgeous. I had this vision of slowing this down and having that dress flowing. Now I wanted to use the combis here, so we opened the back doors of the combi and I just moved in with the gimbal and just asked them to kiss, basically. Now this is establishing the reception, so that's why I've showed that it's Peppers, and I'm showing a little bit of the actual reception, that's the entrance, and then it is also a golf course, so that's why I show the golf course for a second. Now this is the entrance, so there's 2 shots done here, that's them walking out, and then there's another camera to the left which will show them walking in, and it cuts to both. Now this love sign, I just saw the love sign against the window there, and I asked them to be outside of the actual frame and then to walk in together and have a kiss, and this is the result that you'll actually get. I love it. Then I'm just walking through just to give a bit of establishing of that reception, so I'm just walking through the actual crowd. Again, we have to show a little bit of the cutting of the cake, so it's only a few seconds, but they'll cut the cake and then I'll ask them to have a kiss. Now this is all lit with the Profoto B10 on the continuous light, lit them up. Now she didn't do a dance, she only danced with her father, so I have captured her dancing with her father here, and I'm on the gimbal, just walking around. And then it cuts to just showing some dances where the bride and groom is dancing with everyone else. I always like to try and show the crowd a little bit there, so you can sort of see I've moved from the crowd around and then it shows the love sign in the background. So I'm just trying to get a bit of environment there. Then I've just swung to where they're having the dance. So you can see the bride and groom there having a dance and everyone else is in there. So that's basically where I'll finish. The kicker is the drone footage that's just after this that Gino grabbed some amazing footage here, and it was just a coincidence that the bride walked out. So it'll then just move to credits. Now the other thing is too, this was all shot in the standard profile. So everything in here was shot standard profile. And what I've done is I've done very little editing in Final Cut. Really all I just did was adjust a little bit of exposure, very little. Then I've added an adjustment layer on the top, and I've put a LUT on top of this to give it that sort of brownie type look that's actually there. If I open up, it's using Color Finale. If I open up that LUT, we should be able to see what I used. I used the Ascend, it's called Ascend Vintio. So I've used that and I've taken it down to 47%. So that's given that nice look that I was actually after. Remember, it's all artistic. Some people might like it, some people may not. But it's my artistic choice to add that on top. The great part about basically adding it this way on a layer on the top is that it does the whole lot in one go. So that's fantastic. It's just an adjustment layer that's sat on top. Volume can be controlled up and down just by dragging through here. And you can see the points where I've kept the audio in, and then obviously all the other ones I've taken audio out. And I've just left audio in the points where it needs it, like here. Because if you didn't have audio in there, it wouldn't make much sense. The same as when they were cheering a little bit later on. I've done that as well. So, yeah. So what I'd like to say is, hope you enjoyed looking at that. If you have any questions, put it down below. What you've got to understand too is I'm shooting Fusion, so it was like the lapel issue. I didn't have time due to the fact of they gave us, like I said, probably 30 seconds notice, and I was trying to set up for stills as well as video all at the same time. Normally I would just plug into the DJ, but they didn't have that system on the day, so I couldn't do that. So I thought what I'd do, we were doing other things at the time. I thought I'd probably try and mic it up on that mic and sit the lapel on the mic. But like I said, I didn't have time to do that. It was a bit crazy in the time that they gave us, but I'm still happy with what we got. It's more important to get the audio. The audio, like I've said, is probably some of the most important parts that the video can give you. That's the difference between giving a really quality result or something that's not quite as good. You've got to add audio in. And I obviously had redundancy going everywhere. I've mic'd people up and did all those sort of things. I was also taking stills at the same time. Like I said, this was Fusions for me, so often I was holding two cameras. And that's about it. Stay tuned and you'll see the stills. I've already posted a couple on Facebook, so you can see those already. Apart from that, I hope you enjoyed me taking you through this. Let me know if you think it's worthwhile, and I'll see you all again soon for the next video. Bye for now.